Hello everyone, it's officially 2024, so happy new year to you all. But there's some things I want to discuss about the UFC and what they should do in 2024 because 2023 was a pretty good year, but it could have been better. And some things we can do in 2024 to make the UFC better. I have came up in my brain. I have thought to myself, I've been in the lab. I took an extra 30-minute shower to get my thoughts together, and I decided that I was going to make this video in detail what the UFC should do in 2024 to make it an even better year than 2023. I don't have too many gripes about 2023 and how the UFC deals with their business, but I think 2024 can be a way better year than what 2023 was if they follow these set rules that I'm setting in this video. And I truly do believe if the UFC does these things, that it will lead to a better experience for us as fans. It would help out the fighters maybe a little bit in promoting themselves and overall just make it a better sport and possibly help it grow. So let's not waste any more time and let's dive right into these 2024 improvements made by Kendall MMA, the best channel on YouTube. So first and foremost, we have a topic that was at the time good. It was great for when we had it and when we needed it, but now in 2024, we don't need it anymore. It's kind of useless and actually makes the experience worse for us UFC fans, and that is the UFC Apex. The UFC, get out of the Apex. We don't need it anymore. Please get rid of it. Listen, I know in 2020, 2021, partially of 2022, we needed the Apex. It helped us get fighters on the card. It helped us get past the whole situation with everybody sneezing. It helped us all get through that tough situation. But in 2024, man, we just don't need it anymore. There's no purpose for it. And it kind of encourages fighters to just have this stale, boring competition. It isn't anything that is actual UFC fighting. It doesn't represent the actual game. Part of the UFC and what makes the UFC so great, what makes fights so special, what makes MMA fights so great is the crowd. Everybody booing, everybody cheering, everybody getting into it, having fan favorites, the narratives, everything that's a part of the sport. It all kind of revolves around the fan base, the crowd. It makes everything just hit different. And I don't think the Apex is delivering that anymore. It doesn't feel like it's actually being a product that we want. Yeah, it's pretty cool. We get to hear the coaches scream. We get to hear the fighters' punches land harder with a bigger thud. That's cool and all. But guess what? That was cool in 2020. That was cool in 2021. 2024, we've heard it so many times. The effect of it has pretty much washed away. I'm not excited anymore to hear those punches land. I'm not excited to hear those coaches yell. I'm not excited anymore to hear Daniel Cormier and Paul Felder and Michael Bisping scream at the top of their lungs on the TV and on commentary as well. I don't really care about it anymore, man. It doesn't seem like it's anything fun. I mean, at this point, what is the point of the Apex? And I'll tell you what it is. It's basically a way to help the UFC not have to pay for a big venue, a big arena, and they can just use the Apex as a way to save some money and not have to pull out their big boy wallet and give some money to any city that has a big arena. At this point, who is it benefiting? Nobody besides the UFC, not even the fighters. And it's so incredibly obvious. I mean, most of these fighters, they go into this and they kind of treat it like a sparring session. I know it's still a full-on fight and they still go hard, but it's not like they're going in there with the whole crowd behind them. They're not really getting as amped. They're not really getting into the whole fight flow. They're not feeling it. They're kind of just going through the motions, having a nice glorified sparring session. That's really what it feels like at times. I don't really think these fighters are going in there trying to get a big, massive KO for the crowd. Overall, the crowd just puts a lot of pressure on these fighters to have a good performance. Sometimes it doesn't deliver. Sometimes these fighters still have boring performances. But I still think the crowd does influence these fighters to still try to have a big performance and get that bonus. Whereas the Apex is just a way for them to get a nice paycheck and dip. So in 2024, I do want to see the Apex gone. They probably won't get rid of it. I think there already is an Apex card for early January for the first fight that we get back to. I think is an Apex card, which sucks. I might be wrong on that, so fact check me if you must, but I'm pretty sure the Apex is still around here to stay, but I don't want to see it anymore. And to really piggyback off the Apex and fight night cards in general, I think the UFC should find a way to get more championship bouts on fight night cards. Some of these guys just don't sell. Some of these fighters in the UFC right now who are champions, they just don't sell pay-per-views. And I think pay-per-views should be more valuable to us as audiences. There's just not really a good excuse to having a bad pay-per-view card in 2024. I think every pay-per-view card should be stacked. And maybe I'm kind of hurting the pay-per-view cards by putting championship bouts on fight nights. But I think if you find a way to just make a pay-per-view card stacked with a bunch of contenders and then just relegate some of these champions who don't sell to fight night cards, it really would help out some of these fighters who don't have a big name because it might get more eyes on them. And it really is a big thank you to us as fans because we don't have to pay $80 to watch Colby Covington do nothing for 5 rounds. We can watch that pretty much for free or for your basic ESPN Plus membership, which I would definitely feel a lot better paying, $10 to watch Colby versus Leon rather than $80 to watch nothing. But I do understand a lot of these champions, they want to get those pay-per-view points. If they're defending champion for a long time, they're not going to want to be on a fight night card whatsoever. Overall, it's probably just losing money for them. But if these guys want to make some money, some bread in the UFC, I guess build your name, put some pressure on them to actually go out on social media and try to be a big name, talk some trash, get themselves out there. If you bless every champion with pay-per-view points, of course, they're not going to want to fight on a fight night card. So you might have to restructure some contracts. You might have to change some things around. You might have to have some really hard conversations with some of these champions and say, hey, you know what? You don't really make us any money. You're kind of an expense at this point. So guess what? You're going on a fight night card. That way they can get some more exposure and you're making the casual fan tune into more fight nights instead of them skipping it out every single week. And for the last thing I want to see in 2024, I want to see some rule changes. I want to see knees to a grounded opponent be legal. 12 to 6 elbows, I want to see the UFC make that legal. I want to see them just change around a few rules and make it more interesting. Maybe make the actual MMA rules more understandable so we don't have judges robbing fights every week. We had too many robberies this year, man. So I really think the UFC needs to find a way to make their rule set more concise and more understandable so these judges can stop robbing fighters. I do understand it's damage-based scoring, but we need to find a way to clarify that just having top control with no damage does not mean you win a round. Control time should mean absolutely nothing if you're not doing any damage with it. And the UFC has pretty much failed to make that a clear rule in the rule set because judges are still screwing it up. And if they can't even do that, the UFC should talk to some of these promotions and find out, how are they finding these judges? How are these promotions hiring judges who don't understand the UFC rule set? Figure out what they actually need to do to find some credentialed judges that can actually score fights correctly. Really put some pressure on these promotions to really have a good hiring process, a really good background check before they actually just toss in any random judge to score a fight. At this point, I could probably be a judge and score a fight better than most of these judges. The UFC can do so many other things in 2024 that can improve the sport, but those were 3 that I thought of at the top of my head. Let me know if you have any changes that you want to see in 2024 down in the comment section below. But that's all I have for you guys today. Like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon for notifications. I'm out of here, guys. Peace.